Welcome to the lesson overview 2.06, volumes of prisms and cylinders. In this lesson, we will determine the volume of a right prism and a cylinder. We will solve real-world problems involving the volume of a cylinder, and we'll explain how to derive, or this word right here means get. I noticed in several of our lessons it says explain how to derive. That just means get. How did you get to it? So, how to derive the formula for volume of a cylinder. You probably know that you can find the volume of a rectangular prism by using the formula V equals LWH. L being the length, W being the width, and H being the height. So because the length times the width is the area of this bottom base, they change that in the volume formula to say volume is equal to big B times H, where big B is the area of the base. To determine the volume of a cylinder, we're going to use that exact same formula, but we're going to use the circles that are on the top and the bottom because a cylinder is a solid with two parallel congruent circular bases joined by a curved surface. Now, the curved surface of a cylinder is called the lateral surface, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute. An altitude of a cylinder is a perpendicular line segment that joins the planes of the base. An altitude can lie on the inside of the cylinder, like here and here, or it can lie on the outside of the cylinder. Notice that the line connecting the center of the bases is known as the axis of a cylinder, and the axis is also the altitude if it's a right cylinder. If it's an oblique cylinder, then the axis is not the same as the altitude or the height. Cavalieri's principle says if every horizontal line intersects two figures in cuts of equal length, then the two figures will have equal area. And we'll be referring to this a lot in our volume lessons. Here we have the prism with a base of length times width, which is 2 pi, and a height of 8 centimeters. Then we have a cylinder here with a radius of 4 and a height of 10, and an oblique cylinder exactly the same. Notice it just kind of tipped like the Tower of Pisa. So to determine, this is where we get the deriving the formula from. This is how we make up the formula. So to determine the height and the radius of a cylinder, this is how we would do it. So the altitude of a cylinder is the perpendicular line that joins the planes of the bases. Right here, if I draw this dotted line straight up, it measures 10 centimeters. That's the height. So the height of this cylinder is 10 centimeters. We determined the height. Now let's go ahead and determine the length of the radius, r. In this cylinder, we have the dotted line that goes from the edge of the circle to the other edge straight through the center. Notice that that's not the radius. But when we studied circles, we learned that the diameter is double the radius, or the diameter is 2 times the radius. So what we're going to do is we're going to take what we know, the diameter, and we're going to divide it by 2. 5.4 divided by 2 is 2.7. Therefore, the length of the radius for this cylinder is 2.7. Here we're going to do the same thing, except for this is an oblique cylinder. So what do you think the height would be? Pause the video and take a guess. See if you're right. If you guessed that the height would be 40, you're correct. This is what we call the slant. The height is from the base and straight up. So notice that the height is perpendicular. So the height is 40. The radius is 30, and they give us the radius in our given figure. So the length of the radius for this cylinder is 30 feet. This is a big cylinder. Now the formula for volume of a cylinder, remember we talked about the volume is equal to base times the height? Well, by replacing the base with the formula for our circle, we would get pi r squared. Same thing, because our base is a circle. And then the height is just h. So volume of the cylinder is just pi r squared times the height. And if they're asking us for the approximate value, we're going to use 3.14. So let's try this. What is the volume of this right cylinder? Pause the video and see if you can figure it out. Since the volume formula is pi r squared times the height, we're going to plug in 6 for r, or substitute 6 for r, and we're going to plug in 12 for h. Now we've got to use our PEMDAS here. 6 squared is 36. So now we've got 36 pi times 12. So we're going to take 36, multiply it by 12, and we have 432 pi. So our exact value is 432 pi. Our approximate value is when we take 3.14, and that gives us 1,060 centimeters cubed. How about this one? Pause the video and see if you can determine the volume of this right cylinder. If you said that the volume of this cylinder is 729 pi, you were correct. What you did is you said R is the radius, R is the radius, 9 centimeters, and we know that because see where the circle is tilted? It says the diameter is 18. So we had to cut that in half, right? So divide 18 by 2 and you get 9. So 9 is the radius, and then 9 is also the height here. So we said 9 times 9 is 81. And then 81 times 9 pi is our exact volume, and our approximate volume is 2,290. Pause the video and see if you can determine the volume of this cylinder. If you replaced R with 5 centimeters, you are correct. Notice the height is 14 centimeters. So pi times 5 squared times 14. 5 times 5, or 5 squared, is 25. Pi times 14. 25 times 14 is 350 pi. And 350 times 3.14 is 1,100 centimeters cubed. I said squared last time and I meant cubed. I apologize. Let's determine the volume of this cylinder. When you are asked to determine the exact volume of a cylinder, remember your answer will always contain the number pi. It could also be said to be in terms of pi. So here we're going to take 2.2, replace or substitute the r. 2.2 squared is 4.84. Then the height, which is 14. 4.84 times 14 is 67.76. In order to do the exact volume, we leave it just as it is and add the pi symbol. Here we're going to use 3.14 for pi. So we're going to take our height of 8.1 and our radius of 2 inches right here. We're going to plug in 2 for the radius and 8.1 for the height. 2 times 2 is 4, or 2 squared is 4, times 8.1 is, it's not listed in here and I didn't plug it into my calculator ahead of time, so I'm just going to roll with it. Then we can say 3.14 times 4 times 8.1 is 101.736, and that's the approximate value. Now remember that I told you we were going to talk about the lateral surface in just a second? The surface area known as S of a cylinder is the sum of the area of the outer surface of a cylinder. You know what? This is easy. Think about a tuna can. It's just the thing that wraps around the tuna can. You know that advertisement? That's the lateral surface. Okay. So taking a closer look at the lateral surface of a cylinder, that advertisement around all of your cans, as shown, the lateral surface can be unrolled to form a rectangle. Check that out. So then the lateral surface would be 2 pi r, where d is the diameter and r is the radius. That's this top part that covers the can, okay? And then 2 pi r times the height. We're going to explore that to try to solve a problem together. So the surface area would be 2 pi r times the height, or 2 pi r h, sorry, for the lateral surface. Each base is a circle, so the area of one base is pi r squared. The area of both bases is 2 pi r squared. So the surface area, as if it was completely wrapped, would be r is equal to 2 pi r h plus 2 pi r squared. What is the surface area of this cylinder? Pause the video and see if you can answer. Nice work. You took 12 as your radius and 8 as your centimeter. As your height. You did 2 times pi times 12 times 8 plus 2 times pi times 12 squared. Try this one. Pause the video. Notice 14 is the diameter, 22 is the height. So here you did pi times 14 times 22 plus 2 times pi times 7, which is the radius, squared. We're going to do one more really quick before we run out of time. We're going to find the exact surface area of this right cylinder. So we're going to take 4 times 2 because we need the diameter. So 4 times 2 is 8, that's our diameter, times the height, which is 6. Then we're going to cover both of the circles. So we're going to do 2 times 4 squared. The reason we do 2 is because we have 2 circles in a cylinder. That is going to give us 80 pi. And notice here how I went ahead and worked out each of the equations. If you have any questions, please feel free to text or email.